Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.
Welcome back. We are here for another episode of Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook. As always, we have Kelly Cook in the building. How are you doing today?
What's up, Elizabeth? I'm excited. It's another week to get better. And we all are trying to get better every single day, every single week. So here we are with a phenomenal guest and topic, by the way.
Probably the most special guest we've ever had. I'm going to go out on
By
a limb
far.
and say, absolutely. We
By
have
far.
Kelly's sister and Valerie Cook. She is director with KW Commercial, and she's a team lead at Cook Commercial Partners. So she is going to talk a little bit about a topic that we haven't talked much about at all on this podcast, but is really important, and that's commercial real estate versus residential. We talk, obviously, we're talking every day about getting homes to sell and, how to talk to your buyers, how to get listings for those residential sales. And we have not gotten into this topic near enough. So I'm super excited. Valerie is going to answer all of our questions if you've been thinking about getting into commercial real estate. So I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Yeah, same here. I'm very excited. A, because it's my sister and I love her very much. But B, she is a phenomenal businesswoman and very, very intelligent, very smart, and dominating right now in a segment, an industry that's been, predominantly male ran for, I don't know, not just decades, but centuries maybe, right? So it's kind of cool. So different, unique perspective that I think everyone will find value in. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Val, before I ask you a question, Elizabeth did a great job in the intro. Anything else you want to add?
Well, no, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on my little brother's podcast here. So I taught him everything he knows.
Yes.
No, I am honored to be here. I think this topic of commercial real estate interlocking with residential is huge nowadays, and so I'm excited to kind of get the conversation rolling and see what questions we can bring up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the audience here is predominantly selling residential real estate, but I think there's a lot of people, not that I think, I know there's a lot of residential real estate agents that have always wondered about commercial, but they don't know where to begin. Maybe it's too foreign, maybe it's too scary. They heard long sales cycles, and so that turns a lot of people off. But we want to unpack some of those myths today. So let's start here by just saying, what are some of the differences between residential and commercial? If someone doesn't have their foothold too far in residential, or maybe even if they do, why would they maybe want to look at potentially selling commercial real estate instead of residential?
Great question. So I can talk to my personal story a little bit about that. I got my real estate license while selling medical supplies. So I got my license at home while studying and wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with it, but I knew that I enjoyed real estate. So once I got the license, then it was, now what do I do? And so it just so happened that one of my very good friends was in the market to buy a home. And so of course she came to me and is like, hey Val, can you help me? Sure, I can do this, no problem. All excited, just got my license. And I sat down with her, I did a needs analysis. What are you looking for? I felt like I was very clear on what she was looking for. And then we go to see 3 or 4 homes. And through that process, all of a sudden I found my needs analysis has changed dramatically. And now she wanted white cabinets instead of dark cabinets. And she wanted white walls instead of gray walls. And so it became over a process of about 2 months and a lot of work and a lot of time. It became incredibly frustrating for me personally. I felt like, was I not understanding what her needs were? I don't understand. Does she not know what her needs are? And so for how I operate, I have a finance and math degree. So that sort of emotional connection that I realize people have with the home that they're looking for just was not conducive to how I operate on a daily basis.
Wait, does that sound familiar right now to anybody listening on this podcast? Be honest, come on, that's a lot of you out there, including yours truly, but I'm still here. Maybe Val was the smart one. No,
So after that one experience, I realized, I love the idea of making a deal. I love finding property. I love helping a client. So I love real estate, but maybe residential wasn't the right place for me. And so I looked into commercial. I interviewed with, I would say, 3 or 4 of the top commercial companies here in Chicago. So CB Richard Ellis, Cushman Wake, JLL. And I really was drawn to Marcus and Millichap, who is currently the top commercial broker firm in the country for sales under $10 million. So I started with them full-time, jumped in with 2 feet, and managed to still work my sales job, my outside sales job, while building my database for real estate. And so I just found that I really, really enjoyed the hours are a lot better, I'll have to say too. Typically a commercial agent, obviously we work after hours when needed, but our day-to-day is 8 to 5. If you think about who our clients are business people, a lot of times, professional investor groups. So as a single mom with 2 kids, that worked out well for me. I could be home with them in the evenings and on the weekends. And so that was very important to me as well. So I think the less emotional connection, it's more of a business transaction. You're finding a property for a client to meet their financial needs and their investment goals. And a lot of the emotions taken out of it. And so that worked for me. And then of course the hours and the structure of the job just was a better fit. So there are 2 big differences between residential and commercial.
Huge differences, right? Huge.
Yeah.
There are people out there who, for those of you who know the DISC, the DISC personality profile assessment, right? Let's go off of that for a second, right? Like those of you who are high Ds, you probably aren't going to have that emotional connection. If you're a low S, same thing, right? But if you're a high I and a high S, you're going to love the residential side. Now, just because you don't love some aspects of the business doesn't mean you won't be successful or it's going to be tougher for you, because there's a lot of different things that go on with real estate, commercial and residential side. But the points you made, Val, were really good. I think anyone looking to start should consider potentially commercial if that is a personality profile. Now let's talk about like time frame and day to day, week to week. How does that look any different than the residential side for the most part? Sales cycles of real estate, things of that nature.
Sure. Well, from what I understand in watching you on the residential side, I think there's some huge differences there. So in commercial, the way I was taught and the way I've watched other agents around the country who've been successful build their business is you focus on a property type so that you become an expert in that property type. There's a lot of brokers that try to do general, where they're leasing brokers and they're selling industrial warehouses and they're selling office buildings. But really, a lot of those property types have such unique sets of circumstances that you can't be an expert in everything. So in order to win a business, you really want to be touted as an expert. And so you pick a property type that you have an interest in. So for me, it was medical office. Someone might really enjoy selling shopping centers and retail spaces. So kind of feeling out, what are you drawn to? Maybe you want to sell apartment buildings, which is kind of mirrors a little bit of residential and commercial together. So I think that's number one, is finding the property type that you genuinely have an interest in, because if you have the genuine interest in it, you're going to want to learn more. You're going to want to dig deep. And that's important, because the first 3 to 4 months of building your business is awful. And I tell anyone who I speak with that it's awful, because if the expectations aren't set, it's just going to lead to disappointment and failure.
Yep.
So, I mean, it is picking your property type. So for myself, I do medical office. I do a lot of dialysis properties all over the country. So it's finding the properties, going through the states I want to sell in, finding the properties where they're located. Then I have to go find who the owner of that property is. And you build a database with properties and their respective owners. And then you take, I believe, which is similar to residential, then you start farming that database. But to build that database, to do it effectively and a good amount of numbers, it probably takes a solid 3 months or so of doing that all day long for 3 to 4 months. And it's hard. And you have to have the fortitude to know that you're building something long term. You're doing this, you're building this book of business, and you may not see any results for 12 months. My associate who recently joined my team, she joined us last January, and she just got her first listing in December. And so that's 11 months to get her first listing. And this is somebody who is strong in business acumen. She's a hard worker. She's smart. She's articulate and doing all of the right things. And I think COVID may have had a little damper on that timeline, but that's kind of the far end of the spectrum as timing goes. You know, it can take a while for these commercial investors to trust you, to hand over their property info and to get your business going. So you have to have the financial wherewithal to be able to withstand that time period where you may not be making any money.
Same in the real estate side, but the sales cycle is a little shorter on the residential side, right? So it's interesting. So what would you say, what would be the advice on the financial runway to have saved up to be able to live off of? What's the general expectation overall for a commercial deal, would you say?
I would say when I started, I had business experience and I had sales experience. I think in commercial, both of those things are somewhat important, but it really comes down to your dedication and how committed are you to making it work. For me, I had my first listing, my first month of being a licensed broker. I think a little bit that is luck, and then that closed within 60 days after that. So in my first 12 months working in the business, I sold 5 properties. That is not very common. And I credit that to my mentorship, my focus and dedication, but also the market that we were in. That was 2015. It was a good market.
Yep.
Comparing that to my associate last year, who was doing all the right things, and I hope she feels she had a good mentor, the market was very different. And so that's the other extreme. So I would say, to be safe, a good 12 months if you can. Or if you have a spouse who is willing to support you, if you can do a part-time job, it's possible to build your database in the evenings and still have income coming in so that when you are ready to go, you still have some money coming in on the side. So there's ways to do it, but I would say 6 months at least, a minimum.
Okay. That's a good guideline. And here's another myth too. I think a lot of people think when they get into commercial, it's a totally different business model than on the residential side. And the reality is, we joke around a lot here on our team, but you guys, we do something that the industry knows as affectionately cold calls. Ooh, that one hurts, right? That no one likes. Ooh, everyone shies away. Cold calls. But you guys do what are called business development calls.
Mm-hmm.
But effectively, it's the same thing. You just call it business development calls. And I love that because I think if the residential space industry transitioned to that on their prospecting to build their database, it'd be different mindset going into it. So if there's anything else like that to speak about, please do. But the reality is there's no magic formula in any other business. It's, like I said, motivation, dedication, hard work, commitment. And a lot of that comes in the form of cold calls, AKA business development calls, right?
Absolutely. I think I took it upon myself to change the terminology there because I hate cold calling. And early in my career out of college, I worked for sales companies and we had to cold call, and I despise it. I'm a relationship person. So as much as I did not like residential because of the emotional attachment, I feel connect well with people and enjoy having a personal relationship with my clients. So one thing I would mention on the commercial side that is different and that I had to adjust to is I work on a national business plan. So especially with COVID right now, all of my business is done over the phone. And for a while, that was a huge adjustment for me because I was used to seeing my clients face to face every day and using that to my advantage. I had to shift a little bit in working my business plan in commercial, because I can't fly to Florida and see my client, I can't. So every day. So that was a huge shift. And someone that wants to work a national business plan, you have to be very comfortable developing rapport and a relationship and being on the phone a lot. But the benefit of that to me is I could be doing this exact same job in Alaska if I wanted to, and making the same amount of money, if not more.
So hold on, that just blew the mind of 95% of people listening to this. So
Yeah.
what you're saying is you can choose in commercial, it's less high touch, right? Or it's low touch, I guess you should say. So you can choose to work a national business plan and actually be licensed in one state, but still represent buyers, sellers, whatever, close deals in other states, assuming you do it the appropriate way with partners that are licensed in those states. And that's what you do, right?
Right. So a lot of that does depend on the property type that you work to. And I will preface that if you are selling apartments, that is a localized business plan. Apartments need the personal touch, the visit, you have to show them. That's a little different. I work medical office and dialysis, and they're essentially either multi-tenant medical buildings or single tenant buildings. So there's one tenant versus multiple tenants. And all that those investors or buyers are looking for is the numbers. What's the income it's generating? How much money can I put in my pocket? Of the 100 and I think 30 to 40 buildings I've sold, I've seen one of them. And
Wow.
whenever I say that, people are just, in fact, when I first started, I didn't understand how that worked either. But it's true, and if you work gas stations all over the country, if you work Wendy's, Chick-fil-A's, those are types of properties that you could sell it anywhere, and you don't have to physically be at the property to do it. In fact, I've only met maybe one or two of my buyers or sellers in the last 6 years in person. So
That's phenomenal, by the way.
Yeah. That would probably be that's probably one of the most shocking differences, I think, between like real estate and commercial is that, or residential and commercial, is that you can't really be an effective agent for your clients buying or selling a home if you're not in their house at some point, like see what it's like. I mean, you can't really market it well, you have to have that that in-person thing to see all the characteristics of the property or whatever. And so I think that's really interesting to me, that you don't have to be in that building at all to effectively sell it.
No, and it's nice because, my long-term goal of getting out of Chicago is perfect, because I won't lose my business. I won't lose my hard work. If I do want to move to Arizona, or if I want to move to Colorado, or wherever I want to go, or if you're a wife and your husband gets a job transfer and you've worked really, really hard in residential real estate for 10 years and now you have to leave, that's hard. And in my line of work, I don't have to do that. So right now I focus on the Midwest portion of the country. My associate covers the Southeast portion of the country, and we're rocking and rolling. So
that's amazing. That's because, I mean, just like you said, if you have to move somewhere else, you have to, rebuild your entire database for where you are. So and I guess I do have one more question too, and Kelly might be frozen.
I think he is.
But I will see if he comes back here, but I was just going to ask kind of that long-term, I know you said it takes a lot of time to build up that database. You're kind of searching all over. It takes months to do that. What's kind of your process for staying in touch with that database? Or do you, like, once you've done a deal, how do you kind of, I know that Keller Williams has a 36 touch program. Is that similar in commercial real estate, or does that look completely different?
It's somewhat similar. I actually adopted that just recently, since I moved over to Keller, to KW, because essentially what we do is I've started grouping my properties into A, B, and C properties. So I take my whole database and I label them A, B, or C. And the A's are people that I want to make sure I touch every single quarter. So those people are what I consider have a highest probability of transacting within the next 12 months. And, it's not always accurate, but you do your best until you gather more information. And that's the objective of every call, is right? Is to gather more info. Every little piece of information you can get will help you develop that relationship. And so then those properties for myself, they're owned by hospital systems or large REIT organizations where they maybe sell once every 5 years. They're going to be a B or they're going to be a C. So that I do touch them so that they know my name, so that they know who I am if they ever need anything. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to foster a relationship with them because their probability of them transacting is so small. So we do something very similar as far as mining the database in that way as residential.
That's awesome. So it sounds very, very familiar, right? To the residential side. That's amazing. Val's giving you guys a really in-depth overview of what it takes to be in commercial, what it's like, what it takes to get started in commercial. I think the last question I have for you is, what does it take, or what would you recommend for somebody who's possibly thinking about starting commercial in terms of what type of structure, brokerage should they look at joining to start, and more individualized, more on a teams, high support, low support, comp models, maybe things of that nature?
Yeah, great question. From my experience, having started with a very large corporate firm and now being with KW, which is obviously a large organization, but on the commercial side, not quite as prominent in the marketplace. I would suggest that anyone looking to do a commercial, one, do your research and find a agent that you could shadow for maybe at least 2 days. And when you shadow them, ask them to see the reality of what their day-to-day is like. And one, you want to find a successful agent, because even the most successful agents will still be business developing at some point during their day. And that's the core of our business, right? So you want to find a successful agent who's willing to let you shadow them so that you can see, what does it look like building a database? And can you physically see yourself doing that? And then what do the calls sound like? And then what's some of the more complicated sides of the business? And a successful agent will be able to share all those things with you and give you enough information to hopefully decide if this is something you can see yourself doing. In my opinion, starting out in this business, if you want to make money as fast as possible, the best thing you could do is link arms with a team, a successful team, and have a good mentor. There's a lot of, even though some of the best commercial firms out there that don't really offer solid training. And it's kind of shocking. It's the training is much more limited than what you get on a lot of the residential, in a lot of the residential brokerages. So find a mentor who's willing to train you, who's willing to let you see their day, show you the ropes, teach you, because that's how you're going to learn the fastest. And then your probability of making money just goes up from there. So those would be my top 2 suggestions.
Okay, guys, you heard it here first. I completely agree with that, by the way. There's a lot of Lone Rangers out there who are entrepreneurial at heart, but man, there's nothing wrong with being entrepreneurial but still having a mentor. There's nothing wrong with being entrepreneurial but still having a support system or people helping you do things to free you up to go sell and business development, right?
And just because you're part of a team doesn't mean you don't have your own identity. You know, I think we've built our team, and I think Kelly can attest to this, to where we want agents that want to be a part of our team, but we want to also give them a path where they can feel like they can grow their own little team within our organization. So there's a lot of opportunities. Don't feel like because you join a team, I'm always going to be the junior. I'm always, I'm never going to have a name for myself. It doesn't have to be that way. You have to find the right team and the right system and structure.
Well, I can't think of a better segue
I
to
know.
go to www.buildyourrealestateteam.com, where if you put your name in, you'll get a free download of the 7 modules that you need to go in sequential order to best build your real estate team. Val, if anyone's interested in reaching out to you, or more so maybe for coaching advice, coaching one-on-one, I don't know, maybe they want to join your team, because clearly they don't have to be in Chicago to join your team.
Right.
How do they best reach you?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm more than happy to answer anyone's questions about commercial as a whole. about my experience. So feel free to, you can actually call my cell phone at 312-515-1116, or you can email me at Valerie, Valerie.Cook, COOK, at kw.com.
Awesome. Now remember, guys, it has to be between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday. Otherwise, she won't answer the phone. No, I'm just
kidding. Her only working hours.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
That's awesome. Well, Elizabeth, take us away here.
All right. Well, that was absolutely incredible. I learned a lot. I'm really, really happy that you were able to come on and share that with us. So again, as Kelly said, if you want to learn how to build your team, go to buildyourrealestateteam.com, download all those modules. And then also, if you have any questions for Valerie, reach out to her. If you have any questions for Kelly, as always, where can you reach him? Kelly, where can they reach you?
Yes, I'm going to follow my sister's lead here, and I will put on my cell phone, 480-227-2028. Text or call anytime, or email at kelly@kellycookhomes.com.
Wonderful. And we will see you guys all next time. Bye.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.